Yeah, we are back talking Dat Vedonk, and today's reflection is on reflection. That's right, we're reflecting on reflecting. And this is because I've gotten the question recently from a few different people around what does reflection actually look like within the Vedantic philosophy? How does one reflect? Logistically, I think was the theme of these questions that I've gotten recently. And there's a great answer to that. Zooming out, the 3 daily practices of Vedanta, of this, in terms of continuous study, the oldest philosophy on the planet, the 3 daily practices, and Swami at the ashram will say this all the time. The first is to question everything. The second is to not take anything for granted. And then third is to study and reflect daily. So in other episodes, we will dive into things like questioning everything and what does that look like, or into not taking anything for granted. Those are nice cousins with one another. But this third one of study and reflect daily, you could be studying St. Augustine, you could be studying the Gospels, you could be studying the Upanishads that I love reading through early in the morning. It could be the Gita. It could be my favorite study and reflection is Swami's lectures, which you can find on the show notes. I've got links to those. That's what I do every morning. I'll watch a lecture of his, and don't tell the ashram, but I listen to it at 1.5x speed. It's Swami in the current vintage of the videos, of the lectures. It's the 3-year course that you get to watch from the comfort of your home on your phone or computer. It's incredible that we're able to do that. 100 years ago, 50 years ago, you'd have to trek. You'd have to go so far to find this wisdom. And now it's just from my couch here in Los Angeles. It's just remarkable. But on that reflecting piece, what does that actually look like? Well, between studying and listening, hearing new information, a great sage within Vedanta once said that reflection is 100,000 times more powerful than listening. And experiencing is 100,000 times more powerful than reflection. So that gives you some relative importance of reflection over just hearing something that, it might stop you in your tracks. You might love it. You might double tap something inspiring on Instagram that you thought, wow, that's amazing. You might even send it to a group of 10 friends. But if we don't reflect on it, the next day, you'll completely forget. Therefore, reflection is 100,000 times more powerful than listening. So within that study, reflecting on the knowledge is so much more important than just consuming it. And Swami also say that it should be about 20% absorbing something new in the early morning hours before the sun rises, and then 80% reflecting on it. So that brings me to this question that I've gotten recently a few times. What does reflection actually look like? Is it just sitting there, looking up, thinking about something? It could be. Reflection here in the West is typically seen as this isolated moment of solitude as you ponder. But Swamiji has actually ranked the best forms of reflection in terms of really, really digesting these philosophical concepts. One way of doing it is sitting quietly and thinking about it. But a more powerful way of reflecting is to write about it. To you yourself, take the objective, make it subjective, and try to transcribe what you have listened to, what you have heard, what you have read. But third, and most powerfully, is to discuss. Within the right community, satsang, which is the name given to a community in truth, community of other people on the same path as you are, that through discussion, that is the most powerful way to reflect on what has been heard. Because you can't really say it's been learned if you just say, well, I read it yesterday. I might read a really cool pro tip in surfing. But if I can't experience it, if I haven't reflected on it enough to digest it to where now I really understand it, hearing it, reading it is essentially pointless. So reflection is so much more powerful than just consuming something new and interesting. And in the ways to reflect, the most powerful is to actually discuss it with others that are on the same path as you. Feel free to shoot me DMs on Instagram, and I'd be happy to reflect on or help answer any of the questions that you have, or direct you to my teacher, Joseph, who has weekly classes over Zoom. If you're in the Los Angeles area, you can come here in our backyard where my wife and I host a class every Friday. But that form, that medium of reflection, discussion with others, it really forces you to take the objective and make it subjective. So that's today's reflection on reflection. We'll see you next time on the Daily Vedantic. Thanks for listening to the Daily Vedantic. This reflection is part of a free repeating 2-year course in Advaita Vedanta. Rooted in the timeless wisdom of the Upanishads, arguably the oldest philosophical texts on earth, you can begin with episode 1, which gives the 15-minute overview of the whole philosophy of Vedanta, or you can join the journey with any episode at any point. But the critical aspect of this course, of understanding and mastering anything, is to study and reflect, even for 10 to 15 minutes on the timeless each day, preferably at the start of your day. As is said in this philosophy, reflection is 100,000 times as powerful as listening. So listen, journal, sit with, discuss these concepts, or ask questions at thedailyvedantic.com with our AI-powered chatbot, informed by about 700 episodes here, as regularly as one can, if you want to see clarity and peace almost effortlessly unfold in your daily life. And if it doesn't result in a near immediate increase in clarity and peace, then toss aside and feel free to never listen again. One of the things that you might notice is after 7 or 8 days in a row, this doesn't feel like a discipline. This feels like a visit with a best friend to dive into the timeless with daily reflection. Within a few days, it becomes one of your favorite parts of the day. You can also find out more, including news about in-person events in Los Angeles and beyond, at the Daily Vedantic on Instagram, or through our weekly newsletter at thedailyvedantic.com. Additionally, check out the links in our show notes for more resources like the books that are mentioned most frequently in the episodes, including Vedanta Treatise, perhaps the simplest and most straightforward read on this philosophy I've ever come across. Until next time, and from the entire team that works on the Daily Vedantic project, thanks for listening.